Hey everybody, really quickly, I wanted to talk about The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. I think this came out in 1988, and here's the cover. I read this on my Kindle. I'm a very big fan of the film, but I've never read the book. I think I've seen all of the movies at one point or another, and I have also read Hannibal, the book, but I don't think I've seen them or read that book for like almost 15 years, so I really don't remember too much. And because I'm such a big fan of the film, I almost never even gave thought to reading the book. I figured it would be a fun thriller, but I'm like, well, I have other stuff to read, and I just watch the movie so often. And I'm very glad I did read this because this is a fantastic book, and I mean, it has sold many millions of copies, so of course it's a very big book in the genre at this point, but I am surprised by how incredibly mature the writing is. I was expecting a very good thriller, and I got an excellently written piece of literature, really. Harris is really excellent at blending the pulpy thriller plot and the pacing that you would expect from that with an incredibly mature prose. Just beautiful lines that I will read one that I thought was incredible, and just excellent characterization and everything. Um, Let me read what I thought was the best line in the book, and I'll talk about it a little bit in a second, but he does change the way he writes for different characters, but you also just get random, like, really good sentences like this. This is in reference to the asylum where Lecter is staying at the moment in the book. He writes, "Far beneath the rusty Baltimore dawn, stirrings in the maximum security ward. Down where it is never dark, the tormented sense beginning day, as oysters in a barrel open to their lost tide. God's creatures who cried themselves to sleep stirred to cry again, and the ravers cleared their throats." I read that and I was like, oh my God, what am I reading? I had to reread that over and over. I was just thought that was a beautiful line that you don't really see often in standard pulpy thrillers. The other thing that was interesting about this is it's presented as a multiple POV novel, which was really cool. The movie to me is obviously this came first, but the movie has always been interesting to me because there is like a anti-hero in Lecter and then an antagonist in Buffalo Bill and then your protagonist Clarice Starling. Whereas in the book, even though I still feel Clarice is the main character, it almost feels like not that. Like everyone gets equal screen time really, except for maybe Chilton. Um, it's a really interesting way, and because of that, you really do get into the characters' heads. Obviously, being a book, there's an expanded running time, so there are many more scenes that are not in the film, but I really thought it was interesting how he was able to get in these characters' heads, and presenting the book as a POV novel allowed him to really show you what they were thinking. And sometimes not exactly show you what they were thinking because this isn't a first person novel, but give you much more of an insight into them. Clarice is a very great character in here, a really funny character, very stubborn, very tough. It shows what she goes through as a woman in the FBI in the 80s, basically, much more than the movie does. Though the movie really does go for that angle. It's just presented, more in this. Lecter is, of all the characters, is I feel the closest to the movie. Anthony Hopkins' performance is incredible, and I can't picture anyone else when I read this but him. Um, Jack Crawford was an interesting one. Jack Crawford in the film, a character I like but never really give too much thought to. In here, he's a very well fleshed out character with his own backstory and a side plot you don't get. I'm not going to spoil it because but really very interesting. Now, I have to say, before I say, Catherine Martin, the abductee, she has POV sections in here that were really interesting. And what I found most interesting about her sections, we don't really get that in the movie. Even the scene where she's looking up at James Gumb and he's telling her to put the lotion in the fucking basket. Even though it's from her kind of her perspective, we have this cool shot looking up at Gumb. He owns that scene, right? In here, though, you get scenes that are totally like with just her alone, and I think those are the scenes that really push this more towards a horror than the film does, because it really puts in perspective what she's going through as a captor, and it's really, really freaky stuff. Very, very well written. And Gum sections as well just are really freaky, like way freakier than the film, although the movie is obviously really great at having those tense moments. Specifically in here, the way that Gum's basement is described, it's this labyrinth, like, and they do a really good job in the film at hinting at that. But in here, it's just, I was like, damn, this is freaky, man. And just really cool literary like devices that Harris uses. Again, changing his style a little bit for these different characters. Gum sections are written with this weird juvenile style of like carefree attitude. They're very weird, and it really, it's just weird. Like the way one section he said something about Gum would just put on his night vision goggles and sit in these dark basement rooms for hours, and it said like Mr. Gum loved playing basement games. And I was like, that's weird. And he also only refers to James Gum as Mr. Gum in those sections where we're in his point of view. It's really weird. It's very, very cool. So overall, this was an amazing read. I give it 5 stars. It was fantastic. I mean, it was a wonderful read. And I'm definitely going to read Red Dragon, having read this now. I don't know if all of his books hold up as well as this one does. I don't think they do. I haven't read them, but from what I've heard. But definitely going to check out Red Dragon. So if you haven't read this and you like the movie, you absolutely have to read this. If you've read this, let me know, what you thought of it, and if you enjoy it or if you don't like it. And also, if you've seen the movie, if you've picked it up, picked any Blu-rays up, picked any books up, I'm curious to talk about what folks have picked up these days. So I'll be back probably next time with a Blu-ray review or something like that. But definitely reading some more stuff right now. I currently am also reading it's called The Best Horror of the Year. It's a collection by Ellen Datlow. She's a very famous editor in the horror realm. Never read her collections. I've read a couple of her collections, but never the best horror of the year. So I figured I would just go back and start with the first one from 2008. And so far, so good. Really, it's really fun to get back to reading short stories. I also just finished up, what was it called? The Imago Sequence by Laird Barron. Really good horrors collection. If you've read that one, let me know. I'll probably do a full-length review on that at some point, because that was just too damn good. But yeah, anyways, peace out, everybody. Have a great day.